All right, I think we're here. I think I might have linked to a few people the wrong way, so let me send that link back. Give me 1 second. Anyway, cool. Welcome to Friday, guys. Hope you had a good week. Let me turn this air conditioner off so it's making sound. It's like 900 degrees in February here lately. It's been kind of a pain in the ass. Anyway, I've been working on this painting all morning, all week. It's weird, like, been kind of, every painting's kind of a battle in and of itself, I think. And most of it is like, I think I hate it a lot of the times. I do this with a lot of my paintings. I'm working on it and I just can't get it to work right. Like, parts of it look good, but it's just not gelling together. And I just think it's going to never come together. I think maybe I should have done more planning or something other. And then at the end of it, I seem to pull like rabbits out of my hat and kind of pull things together. So I feel like this painting is starting to gel finally for me. And when that happens, it kind of gets more exciting to work on it. But most of the time, it feels like a runaway train that I'm trying to keep on the tracks all the time. Actually, I did a painting of that too. Yeah. So last week I talked some stuff about NFTs. I can't remember everything that I said, but I was thinking about touching on some of that more today, as a lot of kind of delving into this NFT world has had me going through a lot of my older work. So I think I came into it looking at it as a way to present all the work that I've done to a new audience. And some of the experiences I've had more recently have me kind of reevaluating that notion, where I'm starting to see all the potential for all the new kinds of things that I could be doing that has very little or nothing to do with all the work that I've already done. And it kind of makes you think about like how precious is your older work. I've got 20 years of art making that I could be minting into the NFT space, and it seems like a couple of things. It might be a good idea to do some of that to help kind of inform people about where you're coming from, what you're doing. Then again, it's like, how much time do you want to spend trying to get everybody up to speed with what you're doing? Like, it's like trying to explain yourself too much. I hope the sound's coming in here. If anybody's on the YouTube channel, let me know if you can hear me. I guess if I don't hear from you, how would I know? Like, I don't know. That's a conundrum. The sound on these things have been the bane of my existence. I've gone on with things and then discovered later that I didn't have the sound on for all kinds of time, the whole time once. So anyway, so where was I? Oh yeah. Yeah, so one of the things that was difficult when I first started venturing the NFT, and the weird thing about the NFT stuff is that there's like two parallel worlds going on. It's like all this old world, that the analog world or whatever, that I've been accustomed to all my life, well, especially my art career life, and it's really been, it's a solo act. You're out there on your own. I mean, there's a lot of it where I was selling with other artists, especially when I was on the boardwalk and when festivals and all that kind of stuff. So I did have that community, but it wasn't this ever-present community that's always available online all the time. And so there was a bit of pacing to that analog world that made a lot of sense. Like you interacted with your collectors and your fellow artists when you saw them outside in the street, so to speak. And it wasn't this ever-present having to be in constant contact all the time that I think can be kind of exhausting. And so it's also very exciting because you're constantly able to like build on something that you're working on and communicate with them. You'll get feedback on stuff. All that's always there. But that kind of comes coupled with this notion that if you're not always doing it, you're going to be relegated to obscurity and forgotten, and that you have to constantly be in front of people to make sure that you're not overlooked. I mean, that's the feeling that I get from a lot of it. There's a lot of pressure. Hey, Josh, John, Kenny, good to see you guys. I see you there on YouTube comments. Thanks for showing up. So I getting back to the community, it's like, so it's really, when I first came in, being introduced into the NFT community through Wes Henry and the Nomad Group and some of those collectors and artists in there. I thought I was going with somewhere, now I forgot. It was like bringing a junkyard dog into the New York Kennel Dog Show or something. It was like a feral cat or something. That's what I felt like, and I wasn't used to the benefits of the community. I wasn't used to that kind of experience anymore. I was used to dealing with sort of the cutthroatness of galleries and the business side of things. So as I've gotten into this a little bit more, I think when I came in, I thought I had more to contribute. To be honest, I thought like, I've been doing this for a long time in real life, and I can give people information and advice or whatever it is, like that I didn't have when I was young coming up, and I thought that was an exciting thing. But now that I'm farther into it, I feel like I don't have anything to offer. I feel like this is such a new thing that most of any things that I have that I thought were of value to the community are almost irrelevant to a certain degree. And I feel like I have a lot more to learn than I do experience or things to give. I feel like I'm starting all over again. But it's kind of cool because I feel like, I'm like 45 right now. I feel like my mind is still 20. And so I feel like I'm back 20 years ago, but I have the experience of my 45 years, 20 years of selling my art. I have all this experience. So it feels like super cool, like being able to go back in time. Like, I wish I could do that athletically. I wish I could go back into my 20-year-old body with all the knowledge I have, Kind of feel like youth is wasted on the young sometimes. But the other side of that is that I'm not 20 and I still have this cultural, like a Gen Z cultural imprint on my psyche. And it makes me feel more, like I might as well be a boomer. My friend Josh and Chet and I, we been doing these live Twitter spaces, and we floated the idea, or well, not real seriously, but like calling it boomer rooms because I thought it would be funny. come listen to our boomer room and we just talk about boomer shit, like how to getting up at 6 a.m. Which is another new thing that's happened. Like it's kind of weird. Like I used to stay up all night working on art. In fact, like I remember years ago, like I started setting my alarm for like 9 a.m. because I was like I felt like I needed to be doing something with my life, and I would hit that snooze button until 12 every day. I couldn't do it, and so I didn't have a regular job at that point. I was selling art out on the boardwalk. So I didn't have a reason to get up. I didn't have anywhere to be, so I just would not get up. And so finally I gave up. I decided this is how I sleep, and I'll go to bed when I'm tired, and I'll get up when I'm not sleeping. And I would just sleep until like noon, 1 o'clock, and then I would stay up to like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning all the time. And there's something about getting older now that changes. And lately, I've been pushing it to some new extreme for some stupid reason, but I've been enjoying it. I've been getting up like at 6:30 in the morning now, which is like used to be a crisis if I had to get somewhere by 10 a.m. I have to set an alarm and dread it. Make sure I go to bed early. Like by 1 or 2. I can miss a little bit of sleep, I guess. When I was in school, I used to pull all-nighters all the time. But I'm done with that. I actually find that my work is better suited if I'm not at it like constantly all the time. Like if I do 3 or 4 hour stints, I'm doing pretty good. My mind tends to stay fresher that way, I think. Experiencing back pains, yeah. That's why I paint standing up. It keeps me from hunching over. I don't get, weird tightness in my shoulders and my arms. I keep things loose. Plus, especially when you're working on a big painting, you got to step away from it and kind of get a proper perspective on it every once in a while. And if you're sitting down, that's harder to do. Cool. So like, I don't know if this painting's quite achieving this idea, but when I had a chance to be in Alaska this summer, and I was up there for the sockeye run for salmon, and there was a couple of things that really impressed upon me this time, and I was up there, is that there was such a tranquil beauty to like the landscape and the way the water ran like sheets of glass, really smooth but really swift, and just this calm and quiet and peaceful, and just like the only thing I could hear was the ringing of my ears from my tinnitus, like, and it was just like this, you know, serenity. But then under the surface was this just utter brutality of survival, like bears ripping fish out of the water and just eating them alive, mosquitoes just flying in like monkeys from the Wizard of Oz, wanting to fly you off into the forest and eat you. Um, Birds fighting over territory, just everything. We were fishing and we were catching these fish out of the water, and just we were flying. The guys that were there would fillet the fish, on the shore, and throw the carcasses back into the water. And here's all these sockeye swimming up the river through the floating corpses of their dead friends. Just under. But this was all going on underneath, and I start to realize like the only thing that's here is just what's survived. It's like this brutality of survival. But everything there was like there was also this indifference about it. It was like it wasn't like um, it was just a matter of fact. So like there was this sort of contrast between serenity and beauty, and then brutality, like this. And so I thought that's what I want to bring to some paintings. I want to bring this sort of on the surface. It just looks very swimmingly and smooth and just beautiful and calm and serene, but underneath is just chaos and brutality. And those contrasting elements, those emotional elements, I think are, like something I want to strive for in some of the work that I'm going to be doing. And I think a lot of that's going to come down to design, any number of things. So I'm looking for, I guess, I know I'm kind of going around circles. I guess I think the thing about this digital NFT world that excites me is this prospect of like what you're really trying to buy is more time, and that becomes more apparent, I think, as you get older. You realize that you don't have time to master all this new information that you're gathering. Like if you could live 20 lifetimes, you could be masters of so many different things and knowledge and experience, but you only have this limited amount of time. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to spend more time on each of my pieces. And I'm looking at the NFT proposition as a way of doing that, where I can take some of the older work that I have done as a way of financing my time to do even bigger projects. And I think that I would like to do projects that are more geared towards the new digital space, that I have almost two worlds to exist in. I have this in real life thing that's going on, like it's been going on my whole life, and then I have this other space to like play around in that is like a playground, and it's like this. It's like almost like it's built for artists. It's so fascinating. So like, I guess if you're not quite following what I'm saying, like if you're, it might sound like I'm crazy or some part of some sort of cult. Like, I guess the way I would explain it to somebody who's new to getting involved in what's going on the digital scene is you might hear the term Web3, and it's sort of a revolution of what's going on the internet. The best way I can describe it is like I remember when the internet first came out when I was in college. I think I became aware of it in college, and basically what the internet meant to me at that point, when this was like what you would think of as Web point one, was like it was like the library on a computer. Like you didn't have to go to the library to look up information. It was just on it. It was like searchable on this application on a computer that you could open up, and it dialed into something called the internet. And it was like all the information you could ever find in a library right at your fingertips on your computer. And so that's what it was for me. In the late 90s, when I started my art career, and in the 2000s, the internet became, now you have to be on the internet, whatever that means. Like, where are you on the internet? You have to have your website producing your stuff, information about your business, all that stuff. And that's what it's been primarily for since then. It's like now you're on social media, you're on these platforms, you're involved, and you're creating content and comments and interacting with people and creating something on someone else's platform often. And so the what's going on now is now you get to be in the internet. Like, and as for an artist, not only you're in the internet, but you're help constructing and you're help building whatever is going to be utilized in the space. So it's just like a sort of a big playground for creative people. And so what I'm talking about with like, like possibly doing things that have nothing to do with the work I've done before, it's just because like now it's like something you could do. You can create worlds for people to play in, or experience something in, or show the world how things look like to you and through your point of view. And not only do it in a painting, like this is making paintings is fun. It's like making a little illusion that is, really what it is just paint on a canvas applied in a very organized way, but it creates this illusion of being something else, and a symbol of like taking you into some other idea or thought. Is tricking you into thinking that it's something other than what it is. But it's also a way of explaining how you see the world without using words. is why I feel like anytime you see paintings that have to have like paragraphs of explanation, it just means that they're kind of failing at doing their job. So yeah, so it went from the computer. The library is on your computer, Web.1. Now you are on there too, and you have to have a presence, and you're adding to the library. And now we're going back into the library. Now we're going into the computer and having experiences in another way. And I don't know what it all means. Maybe we're all going to hell. Maybe this is Beelzebub tricking us. Who knows? But it's really sort of given me a new perspective on how I see everything else that's going on. Like you start to, like one of the things that has happened as I've gone through all of my old work and decided what to put out as digital NFT mints is you start to look at your old work again, and you can start to have a new appreciation for it. Like I start to see like how far I've developed as an artist, technically, emotionally, as a person. I start to remember things I was going through, and I made the paintings, and it brings up all kinds of things. And you start to yeah, it's like walk. It's like when you move or something, and you start going through all your old shit again, and you start to realize that it meant something that you didn't realize at the time to you, and you learn something about yourself. You learn like where you've come from. Like you learn, uh, reminds you of where you came from, all that stuff. But it seems like the reoccurring theme that I keep coming on is like every time things always change, and you think you know something, and then it just turns out you don't know shit. And I feel like that's where I'm at with all this stuff. Like I come in with what I think I know, and I realize that it doesn't matter because you know there obviously there are corollaries to what's happened before, but it's never the same stream, it's never the same river, no matter where you cross it. Even if you cross it on the same part of the bank, the river is always different. And I think if you go at things with thinking that you know everything, it really inhibits you. So I look at what's going on, all the creativity here, and I'm trying to get in through my thick skull that I could do something I've never done before and I don't even know what that is or what it looks like. But part of that is going to have to be willing to let go of all the things that I've already done or whatever it is I think that I'm holding on to. Like, and I don't know if it's as dramatic as that, like having to let something go, but part of like making good paintings is being willing to sacrifice something you think is working well for the sake of the painting rather than holding on to it. Like, I guess one way of, I guess there's a saying, you got to kill your babies, that sort of thing. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. So I guess there's a part of me that's like wondering where this might take me creatively. And before I started doing a lot of the figurative Wild West sort of themes, and a lot of this comes initially from just the way I grew up, and I grew up in Wyoming and around I lived in a trailer park in an oil field camp until I was 12. Like I grew up about as rural America as you can, and I grew up in basically in the culture of a trailer park in Wyoming, and so that was my first experience. And it wasn't really just a trailer park; it was like out in the wilderness. It was 60 miles from a grocery store wilderness, you know. And that's some of what informs my paintings of like these American outlaw type paintings. Is like I lived out there, but I had running water and we had electricity. We didn't have paved roads or anything. But one thing I remembered as I got older is like just the brutality of the environment. Like the winters would be just be ass deep in snow before end of October sometimes. And so I would imagine as I got started getting interested in American history and all the places that I grew up around, started realizing just how much mental fortitude people had to be to live out there. And I think that was embedded in the culture somewhere growing up, that mentality. They were still fighting. They were fighting themselves. Like there's a sort of um, this word, the fight or flight instinct is always kicking there. And I think maybe that was kind of in my head or in my psyche growing up to the point where, I often would see things as conflict that needed to be solved, a fight. But it didn't feel like, I mean, I didn't grow up feeling like I had to fight all the time. It's just not, that's just the way it was. But I think maybe that isn't unique to where I grew up. Maybe that's what everybody's going through. I think one of the things we learn is that, at least that I've been learning, is that whatever that fight is generally I'm the one to blame for it. I'm fighting myself in the way I perceive things. Like there isn't like some external force coming at you all the time, pushing you around. Because there is no separate you in a sense. Like I, when I come to this idea that there is nothing, there isn't, I'm not separate from the environment. Like sometimes when people who haven't seen my work ask me like I tell my artists like, oh, what do you do? I tell them landscapes because it's easy to understand and people don't question it. But and it's true because I approach all my paintings as landscape paintings in the way I create space and form and all stuff. But the other side of it too is kind of my little smartassy humor is that you've never seen a person not in a landscape. So the person is the landscape, even if it's not the focus of the painting. The landscape, the figure in the landscape. We separate those things with words, but they're not really separate. Like making a painting of a person, what colors I decide are really determined by what the color of the environment is. Like everything has to match together. Like when things start looking odd, it's because you're, visually isolating something. I may not make it look odd, but you might do that for an effect. But like all the colors that go into the figure, I'm bringing in through the environment. Like all of these warm colors are reflected up inside of the coat, and it unifies things. So it's all one thing. It's easy to understand in terms of a painting. But it's easy to forget in other circumstances. So I haven't really done much with NFTs in the last couple of weeks. My last sales ended. I think I've minted 3 of new paintings. Well, they're paintings from my early outlaw days of the kind of a trio of Girls with Guns, and I minted them as one of ones on OpenSea, and I'm not quite sure where to price them, so I haven't, and I think I'm just going to leave them there. People want to make offers on them. It's like, as I'm trying to figure out what I really want to do here. Um, I feel like you know, there's one thing in my experience I've learned is that everything is transient. First of all, things change, and the other side of that is knowing that things change, being trying to look ahead to see maybe what's coming and be prepared for it. And you want to get out of situations before you're pushed out of them. If you're starting to see like something coming down the pike that may not be all that advantageous, and just being aware of your surroundings. You want to be sure you can get out of the way of a truck barreling at you somehow. So you got to pay attention. And so I think I'm going to do some experimentation with some new chains that have some different promise to them, I think. And think about some of the new work I want to do on like a bigger projects. Figure out where I want to go. Figure out like some sort of like personal purpose for it. And I think a lot of artists may be coming into this being dazzled by the stories of quick, lots of wealth and lots of money floating around, and that's true. That is here. But I've seen that come and go before in real life and different things, and you think you're gonna strike it, and you might do okay, but it's it, it you can't count on those things. So, and I think the more you chase that, the more disappointing you might get if it doesn't materialize. Like if you're chasing after the wealth or the money, it's going to keep you. It's never going to be enough. So I try not to get that in my head too much about the possible financial upside to a lot of this. And what I think I'm interested in mostly is um, having fun. As simple as that. I don't want a job. That's why I quit Macy's 20 years ago. Like bullshit. So you know, the other side of that is like, you don't want a job, that's one thing, but I still hustled and found a way to make this work. And so yeah, I see a new opportunity, and I don't know what's going on here. It changes every damn day. Something new comes along, and it's fast paced and it's moving and it never stops. And that can be intoxicating for a while, but it can also be really exhausting. So I guess maybe my inclination is just to pace myself. Like I got to be like, I paint standing up because um, it's easier to keep better posture standing, for one thing, move around. But when I do things, I think like, I train jujitsu too. So, but I can't go out to every class and try to kill myself because I want to do this for the next 20 years and I'm already 45. So I got to pace myself and do what is appropriate so that I have time to recover and I'm not just always injured. And so when it comes to the art creating, I think I want to make sure that I'm resting well, I'm eating well, I'm keeping my health as a priority. I think I really screwed the pooch on that one when I was in my 30s. I didn't really take care of my health as well. And so I'm paying for that health decision now. I guess I'm saying is like whatever it is I decide I want to do, I want to be able to do it for many years. And I think the thing that excites me about digital art and NFTs is like I may not always be able to stand up. Working like this is somewhat physical. I'm standing on my feet a lot and moving around. It may get to the point where if I live long enough that I won't be able to do this. So I gotta, the idea that I could create stuff digitally if I need to in a chair is something I need to explore now. I think that's where I'm at. It's just I'm all over the place. This painting's starting to come along. I was not happy with it for quite a while. It's starting to like gel together a bit. I'm just being introduced to so much different art now too, and it just some of it, just makes you want to throw down and quit. It's like not quit, but like it's like man, there's so much good stuff out there, and you start to you get as an artist. I think there's spent most of my art career just in my room by myself creating stuff. And before there was much social media, it was like there was no way to share it. Nobody saw it until I was out in the street with it. That was how I dropped it. I actually dropped it in the street on the sidewalk. And you know, that's available to anybody. You have the First Amendment right to be out on the street with your artwork as part of self-expression, and you have the right to sell it. And why more people don't do that, I don't get it. You can literally be in front of people, make them step on your artwork to get around it. That's like better than shilling them in a DM. It's like make them step on your art. And I think one of the things that I always think is like I could always go back to that if I need to. But I don't want that's the young man's game. I'm done with that shit. What I really want to do is make cool stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually like the business of art too. It's a whole other art into it of itself. and it can be a lot of fun actually. You meet cool people, work with cool people. There's a lot of aggravation to go with it, but I don't know what else I would be doing. Like at this point, I have a 20-year gap in my resume, so I don't know what the hell I'd do if I had to. Kenny, do you have to have a business license to do what? No, you don't have to have a business license to go sell it in the street. Neither you have every right to be in the street as a newspaper stand. The cops might tell you that you have to have a permit, but you don't. Tell them, ask them for a ticket and take it to court and sue the city for a violation of your First Amendment. You don't have a right to block the public access to the sidewalk, but you can certainly, I went to Barnes and Nobles once, and I just went in and talked to somebody at the counter and asked them if they mind if I put my art in the window outside on the sidewalk, and they said no, and I sold my art there once in Pasadena. You have to be willing to confront those, confrontations. There will be people that tell you can't do it because it seems like you can't be running a business, but you can be out there exercising your right to free speech all you want. And when you ask police to give you a ticket, they get really confused. And then they start wondering if you know something they don't. Or they, give you a fuck you and they give you a ticket and take you to jail. Which I never went to jail, but I was handcuffed before. A lot of times, it's mainly a power struggle. They're trying to show you who's boss. And plus maybe my white privilege was kicking in a bit. I don't know. And then selling in the street, like unlike the internet, there is limited space in these places that are set for like event speech, and so people were willing to fight over that space. So you have to be willing to get punched in the face, maybe, but it's not usually that extreme. In fact, right now in Venice Beach, there's lots of space. I go down there on the weekends quite a bit. And there's lots of space available for anybody who wants to set up down there. It's just not very glorified. And why would you? Because now we have the internet. But I'm telling you, you go out in the street, you're going to get seen a lot more viscerally than you will on any internet chat room. People might follow you, but following on social media is cheap. It doesn't cost anything. It's not a commitment. Not really a decision that somebody has to think about when they have to step over your artwork to move around you, or they are looking at it and they have to they have to make a decision of whether they're going home without it or not. It's a totally different thing. And I've told people to try that before, and I started to think that was really irrelevant because things are so much different. But I don't know. I still think that could be. I mean, that's why there's so much room on the boardwalk. Everybody's on the internet trying to yell over each other. So that place was there, but eventually I had to leave it because the city they're always trying to change the rules. Like there's people who don't want it down there or don't want that there, and they try to make it they will make it hard for you. And so if you can afford to rent a space at a festival or an event, you're going to have a circumvent a lot of the headaches of just trying to guerrilla style it out in the street. But if you have the sort of personality, I guess, to go out there and let it fly, yeah, go for it. Well, shit. I think I've rambled on about enough today. I've been working on this painting all day and I'm getting tired of it. So I think I'm going to stop the live stream for now. Yeah, looks there. Get a little closer. Do a pen across here. This piece. I'm recording this too, so. Shit off. Let me try it again. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining in.